is there any scientific evidence? There's substantial scientific evidence today about how the molecular structure of the water can be rearranged without changing the chemical structure, even with a simple thought or a touch. She drank one sip and burst into tears and started crying. She said, "It's sweet."
Now the big question is, can we also use our brain and use our thoughts by changing, to change the body water? And okay, let's give it a try. And if the experimenter changes his mood drastically, then the water in the syringe changes.
To keep that kind of relationship, that even if it's dirty water, once it enters you, it'll dance in joy. If you keep your situation like that, physical health, your physical life on all levels is well taken care of. This lady in the house brought water for me and she's like Kali. I looked at her, she's a nice lady. Today she's in the Kali form. So I looked at her and she offered water to me and I said, "Amma, I don't need this water, I don't need to drink this water. You're like Kali right now, I don't need Kali's prasadam right now, I'm fine." She said, "Why, will I poison it?" I said, "No, you don't have to poison it, it's already done." Then I told her, "You take a sip from this glass." She took a sip from the glass. Then I said, "Give me the glass to me." I held it in my hands for 2 minutes and I just gave it to her. "You drink it now." She drank one sip and burst into tears and started crying. She said, "It's sweet." I said, "That's all the difference it is." Now, your body is over 70% water. If the water in this system behaves in a sweet manner, will you be at least 70% sweet?
I've already seen that we can change the body water by eating something or by hearing music. And this change will affect your life and your modes of feeling. Now the big question is, can we also use our brain and use our thoughts by changing, to change the body water? And okay, let's give it a try. So I have 2 glasses of water, and what we did is, we concentrate us very hardly, like in a prayer. We say, the water in the left glass should keep its original structure, and the water in the right glass should have more structure in the center, so a centered structure. And then we take drops out of the water, and then we take photographs, and then we look at them. Then we see the left column, you see the tap water, 3 tap water photographs, and you see the center is empty. And on the right side you see a column, and all the 3 photographs, you see the center is structured. And what does this mean? This means that we are able, with our brain, with our thoughts, to change the structure in the water. Another interesting experiment for us was to test whether our thoughts can be shielded by a metal structure or a mu metal structure which shields all electromagnetic waves. So we test whether our thoughts are of electromagnetic nature or of another kind of wave. And for this we built up a Faraday cage, which is standing here, and we took 3 probes of water. One probe was over there, this little glass, which is far away from the Faraday cage, and one is outside here, close to the Faraday cage, and one is inside the Faraday cage. And this one is shielded now when I close the cage. And now I do the same experiment as we did before, with a very strong mind concentration. I concentrate me on these bottles, of water and ask for a change in the structure of this water. And the test is whether also the inside bottle changes the structure. The test is whether this is shielded or not. And of course, this other bottle, which is so far away, should not change at all. And here now you see the result of the test. Again, you see the Faraday cage here, the bottle outside, the bottle inside. And the first photograph to the left shows the reference water. You see no structure at all. And the bottle outside the Faraday cage has already a structure in the center, but to almost surprise the probe inside the Faraday cage has also a structure in the center. So this means this Faraday cage made from new metal was not able to shield my thoughts, and so the changes of the structure happen also inside the Faraday cage. It's very interesting to think about what this would mean for us as humans in future. Our world view distinguishes between natural science and humanities, between the world of the measurable and the world of the unprovable motions. And these unprovable motions are also the feelings. And the world distinguishes between the spirit and the matter, and the shape, form, and the content of the shape and the form. So everything is built first out of a shape. And then finally, this shape is filled with matter. This we know from any creative process. An architect builds a house, he builds it first by thoughts, by ideas, by his spirit, and then later on he makes drawings, and then later on this house is built and the matter follows. But is this a law in nature that it happens so all the time? So let's test this. So what we did, we take salt water. Take drops of salt water. This was salt water from the Black Sea. And we observed something which we observe very often. So we observed that when the structure is built in the drying drop, first the shape is built, we have the form, and then later on when the drop dries further and further, then the shape starts to fill up with matter, more and more, and finally the shape is filled full with matter. And this means, even in this creative process of making drops, which seem to be quite simple and quite natural, nature follows this rule that it first makes the shape, and then it makes the matter. And if we remember far back, Lao Tzu is spirit. And so basically he knew already about this rule, which we find now in the drops of water again. And so we have a long row from the spirit to the idea. We have in our mind from the idea to the thought, and from the thought to the shape, and from the shape to the matter. So this means thoughts make things.
As humans, all that we have created is just a manifestation of our minds. So the most important part of creating what you want is to first manifest it within the mindscape. What is powerfully established in the mindscape is bound to find manifestation in actuality.
When we do our experiments every day, we do first reference drops. This is drops made from a very stable water from South America. And these drops look every day the same. And this tells us that our lab is in order. Everything is all right. And we do about 40 of these drops. And we did this once again, and after about 20 of these drops, the door opened and somebody told the experimenter who did these drops about a very sad thing in his family. So a disaster happened. And the experimenter got a big shock. But he wouldn't like to tell this, and he suppressed this shock. But his drops, onwards, all the drops he made later looked like this. And he came screaming to me and said, "Everything is gone now. I cannot make drops anymore." And so we learned from this that the experimenter is connected to the water in the syringe. And if the experimenter changes his mood drastically, then the water in the syringe changes and the drops change. And what did you learn from this?
Well, thoughts are things. It's very important what you think, because you create your own environment. You are the architect of your life. You are the creator. And do you learn?
Well, I think for me it's very important that water has a memory and water does communicate. And the oceans and the rivers are not the dividing elements in the world. They are just like a big database and store all the information in the water.
In the last decade or a little more than that, much is being said in modern scientific language as to how water has both memory and intelligence of its own. It is not just reacting to various things happening around it, it is responding. And water's response to different inputs is different. There are experiments to show how water does not respond the same way to every person who approaches it. So if the water does not respond well to you, you're a done case. Over 72% of your very physical body is water. If the water doesn't behave well with you, you're done. Your physical life is going to be a horror story in so many ways. You can be vaccinated for every disease there is and there isn't, but your physical life is going to be a horror story because water does not respond well to you. Why wouldn't water respond well to you? To put it in a very simplistic way, if you do not approach this dimension consciously or unconsciously, appropriately, water may choose not to respond to you well. You may be living wantonly right now, but water is responding largely to your karmic substance. The fundamental reverb that you're setting forth, based on that, accordingly it'll respond. So, if we find that somebody has this issue of the very water, which is nearly 2/3 of our body, or more than 2/3 of our body, nearly 3/4 of our body, is not behaving well within us and just about everything is going wrong with the system, then water-based kriyas and karmas are done so that you make friends with water. Because if you're not friends with food, you can still manage, it's only 12%. But if you're not friends with water, physical life is going to be a horror story. So to keep this relationship between the water that's around us and the water that's within us and the water that has to come into us today, to keep a good relationship, to keep that kind of relationship, that even if it's dirty water, once it enters you, it'll dance in joy. If you keep your situation like that, physical health your physical life on all levels is well taken care of.
Experiment 1. Thoughts can influence the structure of water and hence its healing properties. Is this how Sadhguru turned the water sweet? And the lady cried, exclaiming that it was sweeter. Experiment 2. Thoughts cannot be stopped from influencing the water behind the Faraday cage. Experiment 3. Thoughts make things. As Sadhguru says, you are the maker of your destiny. Knowing how to generate the right thoughts can help you live the life of your dreams. Experiment 4. Your mood changes the water structure of your surroundings. Our bodies are 70% water. That's why emotions are contagious.